Developing right now on Morning News Now, Mother Nature wreaking havoc on the Midwest. This morning, entire neighborhoods left devastated after days of downpours, with another round of severe weather on the way, threatening several states with heavy rain, damaging wind, even tornadoes. Meanwhile, tens of millions of Americans bracing for another day of record heat. We have a team tracking it all. Also this morning, a legal victory for Donald Trump after a New York judge lifts part of his gag order in his historic hush money trial. All this ahead of tomorrow's first presidential debate between former President Trump and President Biden. We'll break down the issues and what's at stake. Plus, voters in New York delivering a major blow to progressives. NBC News projecting Westchester County executive and moderate George Latimer beats two-term incumbent Jamaal Bowman in the primaries.
We have to have unity all across that continuum. And if you hold a strong belief, you still must work with other people who don't share that belief, because America hangs in the balance.
We'll have the latest returns after a bitter and expensive campaign. And a new warning from doctors about an increased risk of the mosquito-borne dengue fever. A message from the CDC and what you can do to protect yourself. Plus, hoop dreams about to become reality for some of basketball's rising stars. We'll run you through the top talent in tonight's NBA draft, plus whether LeBron James' son, Bronny, could end up playing with his dad. That would be a sports story I'd follow.
Exactly. The draft becoming almost as exciting as the playoffs, it seems like, every single year. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to get started this Wednesday, as Joe just said, with the devastating floods drowning parts of the Midwest. At least 2 people are dead after days of torrential rain breached levees and forced evacuations in South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa.
This storm system is now heading east. Tens of millions of people across the mid-Atlantic are bracing for damaging winds, hail, even the possibility of tornadoes later today. In addition to those storms, we're keeping an eye on the heat. It is still dangerously hot across the U.S. Millions are under heat alerts as a number of cities along the East Coast are on track to reach record high temperatures. Our team is tracking this extreme weather. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman is here with the forecast. But we start with NBC News correspondent Adrian Broaddus, who's on the ground in Minnesota.
Joe and Savannah, indeed, catastrophic flooding across the Midwest, including here in Mankato. The urgent plea this morning is to keep people away. City officials are asking folks not to show up here trying to take pictures of the scene you see behind me. That's because if someone were to accidentally fall in, first responders would have no way to go in to rescue those folks. And overnight, more devastation here. A home that stood behind us for more than 50 years fell into the river, and folks watched and gasped audibly. We spoke with those homeowners. They also own a business that's been in operation over 100 years. It's been with their family for 52 years. They are hoping this morning that their business does not collapse. For right now, that dam remains intact. City officials say it's unclear whether or not it will remain in place. Back to you.
All right, Adrian, thank you so much. Let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lassman.
Yeah, she's here keeping an eye on those severe storms for us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We've got a big chunk of the country today that's going to gear up for some strong storms, potentially severe weather, and it lasts through even the evening hours in some spots. So let's start with what we're dealing with right now. This morning, we're really going to be focused on parts of the Midwest, parts of the plains. We've got specifically Springfield, Fayetteville, all under these severe thunderstorm watches. We've seen multiple severe thunderstorm watches and warnings across this region so far this morning, and there's more where that comes from here as we go through the day. Here's the big picture look of where we're going to watch for some of those stronger storms to develop, especially as we get into the second half of the day and into the afternoon, evening hours, and ultimately overnight hours. It's going to be the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast that we really focus on. So Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, New York, Atlantic City, Washington, D.C., all included in this area that could see some really strong wind gusts specifically. That's one of our things that we're most concerned about, but also the large hail, an isolated tornado, not out of the question for that region. Here's the system that we're going to watch. Remember, I said this morning, the severe threat really focused across parts of the plains. So Missouri, parts of the Midwest, we'll see that. But then as we get into the evening hours, especially for that afternoon commute, it's going to be likely across the I-95 corridor that we see some impacts, some delays. So just gear up for that. Prepare for it here if you're going to be heading home at that time in that region. And then notice how, if you watch the clock, this really works through into the overnight hour. So the good news of it is that we'll see nicer conditions, drier conditions conditions by the time we get up in the morning and make that early morning commute tomorrow. But the bad news is we're still going to have that severe risk lingering into the overnight hours tonight. It'll move offshore, though. We'll see some nicer sky conditions on the backside of it, but we've got to get through today where we have the potential for all of those impacts. You heard Adrian talking about the flooding. Here's the current state of the river flooding across parts of the Midwest. We do have multiple spots that are dealing with moderate to major river flooding. We're going to watch for this to continue here at least through the next couple of days, but we'll slowly start to see that recede. But in the meantime, we could see another maybe quarter of an inch in some of these spots. We could see a half an inch, and then some of those higher amounts are farther south. You can see Des Moines, Omaha included in that, where we could see an inch to maybe an inch and a half or even up to 2 inches. And on top of all that, of course, we've got the heat to talk about. 48 million people included in this. We've got the heat alerts across parts of the southern plains out to the southeast. This, guys, is going to last with us for at least the next couple of days. We've got 90s today and triple-digit heat index values in a lot of spots, but we've also got actual triple digits in some places like Raleigh, Atlanta, Dallas. You're going to feel the heat for sure, and that'll continue with us tomorrow. So not only is it the severe weather, guys, but also that severe heat this week is going to continue to be impactful when it comes to weather.
Actual triple digits.
Actual triple digits.
Okay.
Yeah, now it just feels like, oh, all right, Angie, thank you so much. Well, turning now to the legal battles facing former President Trump. The judge that presided over his New York hush money trial is now lifting some of the restrictions from the gag order in that case. Under this new ruling, Trump is now able to speak freely about the witnesses who testified against him and the jury that convicted him. But the former president still has limitations. The judgment left in place part of the order, barring Trump from discussing the case with court staff, individual prosecutors, and family members of any counsel. Trump was held in contempt 10 times during the trial, leading to $10,000 in fines. According to Tuesday's ruling, the restrictions remain in place until Trump's sentencing on July 11th.
And speaking of the former president, he and President Joe Biden just one day away from facing off in their first debate of this 2024 election cycle. For many people, this debate could be the deciding factor in how they're going to vote this November, especially for folks in Erie, Pennsylvania. 20% of GOP voters in Erie County cast a primary ballot for Nikki Haley. Now, both sides are battling for these more moderate Haley voters. Perhaps they'll be swayed by Mr. Trump's VP pick, which could be announced as early as this week, according to 4 people familiar with the situation. NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns has the latest.
We've been talking about frustrated voters, about apathetic voters, about double haters. Well, there's a very specific slice of that voter demographic, and they are people who went out and cast their ballots for Nikki Haley in the primary after she had already dropped out of the race. They did that to send a message, and one place they did that is in battleground Pennsylvania in the county of Erie.
This is not your mother or father's Republican Party, and some people don't feel at home in it anymore.
Politically homeless is how Republican voters in Erie County, Pennsylvania often describe themselves if they don't want to vote for former President Trump.
You voted in the Pennsylvania primary for a candidate that wasn't in the race anymore. Right. Why?
I just felt it was important that my voice was heard. And I think to really send a message that there are others out there like me, that would prefer an alternative to President Trump. So I thought it was important just to show support for Governor Haley.
Kurt is not alone. Nikki Haley won 20% of Republican primary voters in his home county of Erie, Pennsylvania, after leaving the race, and more than 16% of battleground Pennsylvania overall. Part of a protest vote pattern seen around the country. The question now, where do those voters go in November?
Right now, my vote would probably be between Biden and a protest vote.
The Biden campaign says it's doing substantive outreach to welcome and win over these Republican voters, including a 7-figure ad buy.
How do you bring these Nikki Haley voters back into the tent?
I'm not sure we need too many.
The debate, a major moment for these voters.
A 90-minute debate on his feet with no notes is going to tell the nation whether Biden's able to run for another 4 years or not.
Dave voted for Trump in 2016 and President Biden in 2020. After voting for Haley in this year's primary, he struggles with voting for either man in November.
There are a lot of people that don't love Trump.
Oh, tons.
But are going to vote for him anyway.
Absolutely.
Where do you think that's coming from?
Because they don't like Biden, the inflation and the immigration primarily.
So I will be voting for Trump.
Like Nikki Haley, who says she plans to vote for Trump, some of these Republican voters will go home to the Republican nominee. But local political scientist Dr. Jeffrey Bloodworth says some of these voters are shifting permanently.
The Nikki Haley voters in Erie County are the same as they are everywhere in America. They're college-educated Republicans who live in the suburbs. The Democrats and Republicans are kind of trading coalitions. Even brown and African-American working class voters are moving to the Republican Party. In exchange, the Democrats are gaining college-educated voters.
Haley voters Rich and Mary are part of that shift.
You have another opportunity to vote in November. What are you going to do?
I'm going to vote for Joe Biden.
Same here.
You think there's a silent Biden voter out there?
I do. I know there is. I know there's a silent. Men and women. We don't want to talk about it, but we're all going to vote for Joe Biden.
But they're not ready to call themselves Democrats.
At one point, I thought about switching registration. I got very close, yeah. And I finally decided I'm not really a Democrat.
Now, both candidates have campaigned in Pennsylvania. The former president was just in Philadelphia over the weekend. The Biden campaign argues that this shift of black and brown voters towards the right, towards former President Trump, isn't as big of a deal as the media makes it out to be. And the former president's team argues that Nikki Haley voters will ultimately come back into the fold. But as we talk to experts, as we talk to voters, we are seeing this real realignment on the ground. The question is, how will that math actually work out when it comes to November?
All right, Dasha, thank you. And NBC News Now will have special live coverage and analysis of tomorrow's debate, which is hosted by CNN. Our coverage gets underway at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The actual debate begins at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific Time here on NBC News Now, as well as NBC.
Well, let's stick with politics. We've got another primary night in the books, and the results could have a potential impact on the balance of power in Washington.
In a race that saw historic levels of spending, NBC News projects that New York Democratic Congressman Jamaal Bowman lost his primary battle for the 16th Congressional District against Westchester County Executive George Latimer. This race exposed the Democratic Party's divisions over the war in Gaza. We're joined now by NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray to help us break it all down. Mark, good morning. So let's begin with that New York race. George Latimer, the more moderate candidate, called for more civility following this incredibly expensive, contentious primary. Let's listen to a bit of his victory speech and talk about it on the other side.
We turn a page and we say that we believe in inclusion of everybody in our representation. That you are included no matter what your demographic is.
So the incumbent Congressman Jamaal Bowman, a vocal Israel critic, member of the so-called squad among House Democrats. How did Latimer come out on top last night?
Yeah, Joe, I think the better way to describe it is how Jamaal Bowman ended up losing this primary, and he was largely out of step with it. This congressional district is pretty much a lot of Westchester County, so right outside of New York City and its suburbs. And the positions that Jamaal Bowman took on the Israel-Hamas war, as well as even voting against President Biden's Infrastructure Act, really became toxic for him. And Latimer, with a big allies and outside spending, particularly from the super PAC, from the pro-Israel group AIPAC, ended up hammering Bowman on those messages. And it is also important to note that this district did change a little bit after redistricting and became a little bit less from the Bronx and much more Westchester County.
Mark, let's switch over to Colorado. NBC News is projecting Congresswoman Lauren Boebert as the winner in her Republican primary. Interesting sort of backstory here, though. She actually was running in a different district this year from the one that she is currently in and serving for, or she narrowly won re-election in 2022. Walk us through this race.
Yeah, Savannah, that point about her narrow win in 2022, she ended up switching districts after Ken Buck resigned from Congress. The Colorado 4 district where Boebert decided to run is a lot more Republican leaning and a lot safer than her old Colorado 3 district. She's set up to win re-election in the fall, and that Colorado 3 district is worth watching in November because it is a little bit more competitive. But bottom line, Boebert decided to leave what looked like a really tough race for a more favorable terrain.
We talked about tension within the Democratic Party. There's also tension within the Republican Party. Several candidates on ballots yesterday were backed by former President Trump but lost their primaries. Tell us more about that.
Maybe the most prominent example, Joe, is in the primary to replace Mitt Romney in Utah to be senator. You ended up having current Congressman John Curtis win that primary over the Trump-backed Riverton Mayor Trent Staggs. And, we often make a big deal about Donald Trump's endorsed candidates winning in these Republican primaries, but we often get reminders that always isn't the case, and including in places like Utah last night, as well as in some congressional districts in Colorado, the Trump-backed candidate ended up losing.
Mark Murray, as always, we appreciate you walking us through this. Thank you.
The trial of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich got underway in Russia overnight. The American journalist was arrested there 15 months ago on charges of espionage. Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal, and the U.S. government all deny these accusations. Cameras captured the moment in the courtroom ahead of the trial start when he was in there. But beyond that, the proceedings are going forward behind closed doors. For more, we're joined by NBC News reporter Matt Bodner. So, Matt, walk us through what we've seen so far. Specifically, what are Russian prosecutors alleging here, and how is this trial expected to proceed?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. Well, things moved very quickly this morning with the court first allowing reporters and U.S. Embassy personnel access to Gershkovich before the start of today's hearing. We have these fresh images of him in that courtroom, appearing with a shaved head from the city of Yekaterinburg. That is where he was arrested last year. Previously, we've seen him a number of times in Moscow courts appealing his pre-trial detention. We've moved on from that phase today, of course, the trial beginning with that first hearing. The court did issue a statement after about 2 hours saying that investigators are accusing him of traveling to Yekaterinburg on assignment for the CIA to collect information on tank production at Uralvagonzavod. That is Russia's largest tank factory. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that we very much expect the trial to go on like this from here on out. That is behind closed doors. Espionage trials in Russia are often held in secret. The state claims that this is due to the evidence itself being secret. So we're very much unlikely to hear much about what is transpiring until he is presumably sentenced. That could still be some time away. The next hearing in this case has been scheduled, but not until August 13th, so about 6 weeks away. And I think it's also very important for the record that judicial acquittals in the Russian judicial system are exceedingly rare. They're less than 1% of cases. An acquittal in an espionage trial, especially during this war in Ukraine, is virtually unheard of.
So, as we said, Matt, he's been locked up for nearly 15 months now. What kind of support is he receiving from U.S. Embassy officials and also from the Wall Street Journal?
Sure. The reality of the situation, there's only so much that can be done at this point. He's very much in Russian custody. The embassy itself in Moscow is mostly a skeleton crew at this point for a bunch of different reasons. But they do attend every hearing that they are allowed to attend. Today, they were not allowed into the actual hearing itself. The Wall Street Journal, for its part, has obviously done everything it can do to support his case and keep this story in the headlines. But ultimately, Gershkovich is counting on mercy from the Kremlin.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has previously said he's open to the idea of a prisoner swap. Is that a realistic option right now, especially with what's going on in Ukraine? Where do we stand with that?
Anything is possible. Certainly with President Putin and the Russians, anything is possible. They can change their mind on any of this at any point. It's correct. We have heard him say that he thinks Gershkovich should go home. But unfortunately, we've seen no meaningful public movement on that. What we can do, I think, is look at analogous cases, those being the detentions of other Americans, such as Brittany Griner on drug smuggling charges, or more appropriately, Paul Whelan on espionage charges. In each one of those cases, the Russian talking point, without exception, has been that the Russian courts are independent. No talk of trade can begin until the court has reached a verdict. And then President Putin will have legal options to either pardon or conduct some kind of trade. We heard that again this morning from the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, reiterating that position on his daily briefing. It's unlikely we're going to hear too much more from the Kremlin on a potential trade until this trial has ended.
Yeah, I mean, and Matt, remind us, it is not just Gershkovich, but there are other people who have been in prison there for even longer, so that complicates any prisoner swap, right?
Absolutely. So right now we still have Paul Whelan in Russian custody, and that case is very important to keep an eye on. There are, of course, a number of others, but Whelan is extremely important here because he is the other American on espionage charges. There's been two major trades over the past few years with some of these cases. As I mentioned, Brittany Griner. There was also Trevor Reed, a former U.S. Marine who was incarcerated in Russia on charges of assaulting an officer. They both were traded for Russian arms dealers. Two names, actually, that the entire time that Whelan has been in custody for about 5 years now were always the names that were presumed or floated in the Russian press and other sources as the likely contender for who the Russians were trying to get in these trades. But both of those men have been traded back to the Russians. It's not entirely clear who they're playing for at this point. There's some talk about a Chechen assassin that the Germans have in custody. That, of course, becomes very complicated because it's no longer a U.S. to Russia trade. It's Russia, Germany, U.S. So there's a lot of mechanics here. But as you say, important to remember, Gershkovich is not the only one. There is another espionage case in Russia that has been going on for 5 years. Whelan's still there. There have been multiple trades. This could go on for some time still.
All right, Matt Bodner, appreciate your reporting this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.